I and a number of others enthusiastically and emphatically supported hurricane relief for Sandy. Hurricane relief and disaster relief has been a vital federal role for a long, long time, and it should continue. The problem with that particular bill is it became a $50 billion bill that was filled with unrelated pork. 2/3 of that bill had nothing to do with Sandy. And what I said then and still believe now is that it's not right for politicians to exploit a disaster and people are hurting to pay for their own political wish list.
Okay.
Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas speaking with MSNBC on Monday, standing by his 2013 vote against a Superstorm Sandy relief bill for the New York, New Jersey area. Joining us now, Republican Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey. Good to see you.
Hey there. So word association game. It's so great to have you here. Ted Cruz,
we're
go.
gonna play. Yeah.
Crap.
Crap.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean,
Ted Cruz crap.
By the way, that was, he talks about playing politics. That's what he did.
What do you mean?
With people's lives in 2012 and 2013, he was playing politics to make himself try to look like the most conservative
But
guy in
Ted
town.
Cruz just told us that 2/3 of all the spending had nothing to do with Sandy. We just heard it on there.
Dead wrong. And look at the Washington Post yesterday. They did a fact check on that yesterday. And the fact of the matter is that there was a Senate version of a bill that never passed that had a lot more spending. It got stripped out. And almost all of the spending in the $50 billion bill was for New York and New Jersey and some of the other areas that got affected by Sandy for hurricane relief. He knows it. See, the worst thing about it, and this is why politics has become so cynical in Washington, is statements like that. He should just stand up now and say, you know what, I was wrong. I was wrong in 2012. It was the wrong thing to do. And now I hope that the people of New Jersey and New York are willing to let bygones be bygones and vote for relief for Texas. I'll tell you, that's exactly what New Jersey.
So the Washington Post did have a fact check on it. Nick, also, you scoured through the bill yourself and saw there wasn't really
there was
there
was a very small amount of money that could have been put into a different pot than a long-term relief, but it was almost all for projects that were intended to mitigate damage. It was not all emergency direct aid.
Right.
And what's troublesome here is the characterization of pork applied to stuff like fixing roads and community centers and actually doing real fixes on damage. And I think that what he's saying here, the governor's saying, is that it's not a fair label to call it pork.
Yeah.
And it's a way of posturing.
And also 2/3. Where do you get a number like
lying.
2/3?
Well, he just made it up. I mean, Ted's particularly good at that. Yeah. He just made it up. You know it, and I know it. He made it up because it sounded good, right? So, and now,
I would never say that.
now you're standing.
By the way, I'd never be critical of Ted Cruz.
I know you wouldn't. But the disgraceful part of that,
Joe.
the truly disgraceful part of what we just saw, was that he's not telling the truth, standing in a recovery center where people are suffering.
All right, but Governor,
it's just not right.
Let's expand this though beyond Ted Cruz, because I don't think it's fair to just talk about Ted Cruz this way.
You brought him up.
There are a lot of people though in this. I know, but I don't want to just
Good point.
Good. Let's expand, baby. I'm ready.
Okay, expand.
You could say that about a lot of the people in the Texas delegation did the same thing.
Sure.
A lot of people,
20 of them.
A lot of people across the region did the same thing.
But people from New Jersey, we don't hold a grudge. Right. So we're happy to be helpful now.
Don't hold a grudge.
We're happy to be helpful now because we know what this suffering is like.
Well, one person that knows what the suffering is like, not to this degree, I'm sure, but Noah, you were talking about how it didn't hit you until about 3 weeks later that, were you Jersey City?
Yes, I was in a garden level unit in Jersey City. We were dark for about a week, little wet, little dark, but we didn't have it anywhere near as bad as the folks on the shore. What I was thinking about is everybody thinks about the long-term, months out, and they also think about the near-term, immediate lives lost. But that period where we were dark, the week after, 2 weeks after, we really start to get an understanding of the scale of the disaster. What needs to be done in that interim to restore power, to get air conditioning back on, that sort of stuff?
Our plan right off the bat was 4 steps to return to some kind of normalcy. Get your power back on, get the roads cleared, get gasoline available for generators and for cars, and get kids back in school. If you could do those 4 things as quickly as possible, people will start to feel
Were you
like
able to do that?
We were, and everyone in New Jersey had their power back within 2 weeks. And here's how we did it. I got on the phone with governors in every state I could before the storm to say, if this is as bad, will you send workers? Will you send workers? And we got commitments up front from states as far away as Tennessee and Louisiana, who started on the day Sandy hit to drive up to New Jersey. That's the only way to do it. There are not enough resources in any one region to be able to deal with this.
I'll tell you, and Mike, that was one of the when Hurricane Ivan hit Pensacola, it wiped so much of the place out. But that night, Mississippi power trucks up and down, Alabama power trucks up and down our blocks, and they were working literally 24 hours a day.
Yep.
It was, and
that's who we are.
Yeah, that's what
who
you're
we are
supposed
as a
to do
country.
in
But
storms.
as you know, you've lived through it. You've presided over it. People have covered it. We've covered things like this. Not anything as epic as this, but there are three elements to it. There's the reaction to it. There's the rescue aspect of it, which is ongoing now in Texas, and then there's the recovery. You're still going through the recovery process in New Jersey and the enormous cost of it. But in the middle of it, in the reaction to it, you have a president arriving in Texas. You had a president arriving in New Jersey. And there's an infamous picture that you paid a political price for, some would argue, of you and Barack Obama.
Yep.
Tell us about Barack Obama arriving in New Jersey and dealing with the people of New Jersey.
Well, let's remember the context, too, which you implied in your question, which is that we were 8 days away from a national election when Hurricane Sandy hit. And I was, if not the top surrogate for Mitt Romney, at least one of the top surrogates. And so when the storm hit, the day after, the president called me and he said, I want to come to New Jersey, but if that's going to be awkward for you, we should talk about it. And I said, Mr. President, you're the President of the United States. We want you to come to New Jersey. And he came 2 days after. And you're showing some of the pictures now. We walked around to infected areas. I showed him so he could see for himself, both in the air in Marine One and on the ground in Brigantine, New Jersey, the effect of what was happening, the devastation. And I think that it set the pace for his attention to this going forward. And it also set the pace between my cabinet and his and the relationship you need, because there are going to be a lot of bumpy moments. No matter what administration it is, no matter what party you are in getting the recovery done, it makes a difference to have the President of the United States there and see it for himself.
And looking at this disaster from a good distance, comparing it to the New Jersey disaster, how important is it to have like regional administrators, SBA, HUD, EPA on the ground dealing with things in conjunction with the governor's office? The government, as we know it exists right now, has been hollowed out. Many departments have been hollowed out. How critical is that?
It's essential, and it's got to start first that the governor and the president have to have an understanding that they can speak at any time. That day when Barack Obama came, he handed me a piece of paper with a private phone number on it, and he said, you call this anytime, day or night, and you will get me.
You still got it?
No.
He changed his number.
He changed it on me after he got reelected.
He's at a different location.
But the fact of the matter is that I used it, and he made an instruction to his cabinet members in front of me. He said, if the governor or any of his people call, it is unacceptable for that call not to be returned within 30 minutes.
Country above politics.
Right, and that's what it was, and we both understood. Even though I was out on the campaign trail beating the bejesus out of him on behalf of Mitt Romney, right up until the Saturday before the storm, but we both understood that we had a job to do, and that's why the picture that of me shaking his hand when he got off the plane, that became such a big political deal, that was characterized as a hug. The fact of the matter is, I'd do it again. If it was today, I'd do it again, because that's what you're paid to do. Okay. And this other stuff is not what you're paid to do. The stuff Cruz was doing, that's not what you're paid to do.
So, Governor, I have to ask you, there is a chance, perhaps an outside chance, of a vacancy in the U.S. Senate if Senator Menendez is convicted. And I'm curious, you said, I don't see it happening that you would possibly be the replacement yourself. So I'm looking for a Sherman-esque statement here. Is it even within the realm of possibility that you would appoint yourself?
I don't give Sherman-esque statements on anything.
So it's possible.
Well, listen, you can say whatever you like. I've said pretty clearly a number of times over the years that there are executive personalities and there are legislative personalities. And I think I'm an executive personality. And I don't know, being one of 100 down there, whether, I'd be invited to lunch all the time.
Senator Christie has a nice ring to it.
Well, listen, Governor Christie has a better ring to it to me. But listen, we'll see what happens in this trial. We don't know if there's even going to be a vacancy, and if there is, whether I'll still be governor to replace it. What I'll guarantee the people of New Jersey is I'll do the same thing I did when Senator Lautenberg unfortunately passed away, and I had to make a choice then. I'll pick the person I think is best to represent New Jersey's interest in the U.S. Senate if I get the chance to do it. But let's remember something else. Bob Menendez, who I've had plenty of political differences, policy differences with over the years, he deserves the presumption of innocence. He's an American citizen who deserves the presumption of innocence. And having been a prosecutor, it's our job as the government when I was the U.S. Attorney to prove beyond a reasonable
Is this a
doubt.
political witch hunt like Ted Stevens?
I don't know, Joe. I mean, because I don't know enough about the case to really know. But we're going to find out. Trial starts next Wednesday, and it's going to be all laid out in a district court in New Jersey, in Newark, New Jersey, and we'll find out. But Senator Menendez deserves an impartial trial before a jury of his peers, and we shouldn't be speculating about
On
what's
that
gonna
note,
happen.
then I think it'd be a good segue to ask you about the pardon of Joe Arpaio, the transgender tweet in the middle of the hurricane. Can I get your take on both of those in terms of how this president is doing?
Well, listen, I think the pardon power is an extraordinary power for any executive, both the governor, and I've used it, and the president. My understanding has always been that one of the prerequisites you look for in giving a pardon is contrition for what you were convicted of. I didn't see that in Sheriff Arpaio. And so, to me, one of the things that you need an acknowledgement of is acknowledgement of guilt. First off, is required for a pardon. And I has always been told that you need to look for some sense of contrition.
So you wouldn't have given the pardon?
This is not one that I would have done. But, you know, the fact is, when you're a president or governor, you have the absolute right to do this. And I've heard some people say he doesn't. I don't read that in the Constitution. The president or a governor has an absolute right to grant a pardon for any reason.
You wouldn't have done it.
This is not one that I would do because of the person not seeming contrite for what he was convicted of. Now, I know the president disagrees that what he did was unconstitutional. But the fact is that a court found that. And so, you know, my concern about this is, for us, in these executive positions, you need to use this power sparingly. You need to use it for people who are truly deserving. Now, I know, because I've spoken to the president about this, that he absolutely believes that Arpaio was wrongfully convicted, believes what he's doing was constitutional, and believes that he's doing something that was right and just. Everybody has their own read on that, can agree or disagree with it, but they can't do anything about it because the presidential power, in my view, there is absolute.
We've done a number of interviews in the past couple of weeks, and I've been asked this question, so I'll ask it to you. Do you think President Trump is fit for the office?
I do. I
How
do.
so?
Listen, I think that this discussion of fitness was determined in the election by the American people. And
But why
he's
has
certainly
it come up?
Well, but listen, you know, Mika, because I think there's such a hyper-partisan attitude in this country now. I never thought that President Obama was born outside the United States. Okay, yet we had years of discussion of that.
Donald Trump
which I
did
said,
that.
of course.
Our president
of course,
actually is
and
one of the leaders of the birther movement.
which was, I said from the beginning, was a ridiculous conversation. And I believe this conversation about Trump's fitness for office is a ridiculous conversation.
How
But
about
do you
your
think
concern?
someone who is actually a leader in the birther movement is fit to be president of the United States?
I think people are allowed to be wrong. And I think the American people are allowed to pick the leader they want to pick. And they voted for Donald Trump, and I did too.
Right.
Knowing that he had done that. I think he was wrong. As I said last week on
think he thinks he
Charlottesville.
was wrong.
Well, I know he doesn't think he was wrong because I've talked to him about it. But here's the bottom line. You know, we're allowed to disagree with our leaders. I disagreed with what he said after Charlottesville, and I said so publicly and privately that I thought it was wrong. And I thought it was a mistake. But show me the flawless leader. You know, we've not had one in my lifetime, and so, you know, you've got to make a judgment. Everyone will make theirs. You'll make your judgment about fitness for office or not. I'll make mine. I can answer the question directly. I believe this president is fit for office, and what my hope is, Mika, is that as he continues to go through his learning curve in this office, that he grows into it even more. That's my hope as an American. That's my hope as a friend of his for the last 15 years, and that's my hope, lastly, as a Republican.
What's your biggest disappointment in Donald Trump?
We haven't gotten
the
things
president?
done, Joe. I mean, we're sitting here 7 months in and we haven't put touchdowns in the end zone. The only real touchdown that we put in the end zone is Justice Gorsuch.
Right.
And beside that, the big things that we've been talking about as Republicans for 8 years, Obamacare, things like tax reform, you know, are things that should be done with a Republican Congress and a Republican president, and we've been distracted by other things, and we need to get focused on getting that done.
So we've had you here when your approval ratings were low.
Yep.
And
Like today?
You didn't care. And
I don't.
you told us as much you didn't care. When you came back, your approval ratings were higher. You still seem to have the same attitude to us, and we've said this very clearly on the air before. But now they are very low.
Right.
Does that bother you? Do you care? What would you have done differently that may have got your approval ratings
Well,
high?
I think you asked a couple different questions there.
Yeah.
Does it bother me? Of course it does. Nobody likes to have low approval ratings, so of course it bothers me. Do I care? No. Because I know that I've done the very best job that I can, and I know that I've made a huge positive difference for the people in my state. I also know, Joe, that I've been the predominant public voice in my state for the last 16 years.
What was your biggest mistake?
My biggest mistake?
As governor.
Hiring the people who pulled the shenanigans at the bridge.
What about
That was my biggest mistake because
what about not having more control over them? Do you regret that?
No, because listen, it's an independent agency, the Port Authority. It's supposed to be independent, and I hired one of those people, just one, and I sent them over there, trusting them to do the job at an independent agency.
Don't you think
And he
they
didn't
were
do it.
doing what they thought you wanted them to do?
Absolutely not.
You don't think
No.
they were doing that for you?
Oh, I think they thought they might have been doing
Right.
it for me, but they weren't doing what I wanted. And when you look at Joe at that time, as you'll recall, we had over 100 elected Democrats who were endorsing re-election. Why did they do that? They did it because we had worked with Democrats over 4 years, a Democratic legislature, to pass things like that. The idea that I would ever want something like that done is ridiculous, and it was done by a group of folks who, clearly were on their own agenda and not mine. Because if that were the case, if that were systemic through the administration, you wouldn't just have one instance of it.
Do you have sympathy for them?
Sure. I don't want to see anybody go to jail.
No.
I don't want to see anybody go to jail, Joe. But people have to be held responsible for their conduct. And a jury determined it. They now have a right to appeal. If the appeal changes it, I believe in our justice system. I was a prosecutor, the U.S. attorney for 7 years. I believe in that system, and I support that system. But do I feel sympathy for people? Sure. How can you not feel sympathy for a woman who's a single mother with 4 children who's going to have to go to prison? I wouldn't want to see that happen to anyone. But I will also tell you that I am, to this day still, incensed at people who would use public power and public authority that was given to them by someone who was elected by the people to conduct themselves in that way.
So given your respect for the law and your experience in it, what do you think about the president's comments about the judiciary across the board? Some say that it appears he's trying to even undermine the judiciary.
I don't believe the judiciary can be undermined.
I know, but what do you believe? Don't deflect from Trump.
I'm not deflecting. I'll answer.
Does it concern you? Because most of my friends in my hometown that I've grown up with, they still support Trump. And they ask me, what disturbs you the most? I said, what disturbs me the most is he doesn't seem to understand checks and balances, and he starts going after federal judges. That disturbs me the most. Does that disturb you?
Here's the difference, Joe.
Does it disturb you?
I'll answer that in this way. I think we're allowed to be critical of people in public life. And I think if we think a judge has made a mistake, we're absolutely allowed to do it. But wait a second. Where it strays into the unacceptable is when it becomes personal. When, like in the Judge Curiel circumstance.
But what about when you question a judge's authority?
Well,
as in the Washington State
I think you can question a judge's authority as long as what you say is, I don't believe they're right, I'm going to take an appeal to the next level, right? And I think what the president has done, to be fair, is he's respected those orders. Where you would undermine the judiciary is if a judge puts an order into effect and he said to General Kelly at Homeland Security at the time, the hell with it. Don't listen to the order. Keep doing what I told you to do. If you say, I think that's wrong, I think they're dead wrong on it, and I use the judicial process to go up, as he did, I think that's showing respect for the system. Where I think the president strays at times is when it gets very personal and vitriolic, because then, as like in the Curiel situation, and I counseled him this way at the time, that you can disagree with the way a judge is managing or deciding on a case, but you shouldn't say that they're doing so for personal reasons unless you have absolute evidence of that, and I don't think that we did. So my point to you is, we can be critical of anybody in public life that we want. Do it on the facts, and don't become personal about it.
Final questions. They keep yelling at us.
What was that?
Go to break.
Parsi, you're parsing.
Not parsing.
You're parsing.
By the way, I'm sorry. I am so sorry that I've come on to. I'm so sorry that I've come onto television and given an intelligent, nuanced answer. I know that this is nearly a federal offense, Mika, to actually not just give a one-word answer.
Let me answer the question this way.
I'm going to parse everything.
Okay, so let's go to something that you're not going to parse. Let's talk sports. I'm sorry, Alex. I got to know. Yankees or the Red Sox? Who do you think is going to win the East?
Red Sox.
And why?
Wow.
I think their pitching is better.
Yeah. What about the Yankees? What's that? I mean, we get.
Hey, listen, they've done a lot better than I thought they would. And as a Mets fan, that pains me.
Yeah.
It absolutely pains me. But nonetheless, they've done a lot better. The young players have performed. They've stayed predominantly healthy, and they've had a good year. But in the end, my view, Yankees do not have
you
enough pitching to compete in the postseason.
When's the last time you've seen a baseball team as dominant as the Los Angeles Dodgers?
The 1986 New York Mets.
Oh, shut up.
Baby.
Just
The
shut
86
up.
Mets.
I still.
You
What
love
is
that.
it?
Like,
Still
she
remember
had
that
the
lady.
straw hat and all the rest. Listen,
Mike, let me
I
ask
don't
you
mean to
that.
do that to poor Barney.
Oh, my God.
But nonetheless,
No, this lady behind the plate. The whole
108
series.
We did that at a
108
Mets
wins,
game
Mike.
once.
So,
Mike, you remember,
Mike,
Mike, 108 wins,
what was
baby.
what team, most dominant team going back?
The 86 Mets. Come on, Mike.
Dodgers.
You know,
Dodgers this year.
the Tory Yankee teams
Right.
of the late 90s were pretty dominant.
They were pretty incredible.
97, 98.
That 99 team
Yeah.
was pretty dominant.
Probably not.
All right, Governor Chris
Really quickly,
Christie.
how are the Cowboys going to be this year?
I'm looking at 11-5.
Giants,
Giants 10-6.
Jets.
1-15.
Lord. Governor
We'll
Chris
leave it there.
Christie.
Because they got to win one. Don't
gotta
ask me
win
which
one.
one they're going to win, but they got to win one.
Okay.
Mika, do we have to go?
Chris
Was that
Christie.
less Parsi for you?
Thanks for
That was
parsing.
less Parsi. We should have started
Thanks
with
for
less
parsing.
questions. Less Parsi.
That's the
Again,
only way you can get by an interview about Trump
If you
is
want,
to parse.
if you want nuance and intellect, invite
don't want
me.
nuance.
If you want a blunt
the bottom
instrument, have
line.
Cruz on.
Oh,
Okay,
God.
there you go. Coming up. Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.